Jobina, do you know what metastatic triple negative breast cancer is?
Okay, I am only familiar with the medical terminology because of all of the drug commercials that are out.
That's exactly.
That talk about metastatic triple negative breast cancer. Now, what does that mean? I have no idea. But I could probably, if I tried hard, list a few drugs that you could be on to extend your life on it.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. Because when non-Americans come to America, one of the things they always say is, what's up with the drug commercials? This is something that is exclusive to the United States. And their
Really?
logic
Okay.
makes sense. Like if I have metastatic triple negative breast cancer, why should I be suggesting drugs to
it
my
to my doctor? Yes. And they're always like, ask your doctor about.
Right. Like, what is going on with the medical
God.
industry in America and capitalism and consumerism? Like, why are we like this?
They want us asking about those drugs.
All right, everybody, let's start the show. Hey everyone, I am Luther Palmer, and this is One Episode Stand, the podcast that helps you figure out what to watch and what to skip.
And I'm Jobina Scott. We check out the very first episode of a new streaming show. Just one episode. If you're me, it's just one episode. If you're Luther, it's questionable. But either way, we talk about it.
Snitches get stitches, Jobina. Snitches get stitches. Y'all already know about one night stands. Well, this is like that, but for TV shows. Jobina, usually I ask you what else you're watching. We're going to skip that because we have a lot to talk about because this show is absolutely bananas. So give us the facts. Give us the numbers and the facts about Dying for Sex.
Dying for Sex. Okay, so Dying for Sex is on Hulu. Y'all know once I got my life together and figured out my password, a whole new world of shows opened up to me. So I recommended this to you, Luther, because I knew even from like just the little snippets that they were playing to advertise the show, the previews, I knew the show was going to take me away. I absolutely knew it.
Nice.
So this is based on a true story. About a woman named Molly who is diagnosed with breast cancer, who recovers and then has another bout with cancer that ultimately takes her life. And it is her journey through that terminal diagnosis to the end of her life and what she prioritizes. And she prioritizes meaning in her life and connection through sex.
Through sex. How does the show look, sound, and feel? And I guess I'll start. It's the two friends are very chatty and giddy and they love all over each other. So the pacing of the show oftentimes is very quick with their interaction.
Yeah.
They have a lot going on. They're very quick-witted, so they have a lot to say to each other. But we also get, so Molly's the cancer patient. We also get some of her inner dialogue sometimes, which I found interesting. Even when she's talking to her best friend, like there's certain things that she sometimes encourages herself to say things. She's like, say the thing. Yeah. And then sometimes she doesn't say the thing. Sometimes she does say the thing. So I thought that was an interesting take. And I should say now, we have made a decision to talk about the entire show because both of us were completely engrossed in it. So if you haven't seen it, I don't know that it's much of a spoiler because it's a real story, and the real story is that she does die. Yes. We learned that this show, well, it says at the end of the show that it was based on a podcast. Right. Well, so there's a podcast that exists out there. They have an Instagram page that tells the story.
And then, I totally rabbit holed. I got on Wondery where the podcast is. I've listened to every episode of the podcast. Right. I went to the Instagram page. I saw all the pictures of Molly and Nikki. Like I rabbit holed on this one because it just gripped me. It was so good.
We're gonna just cover the whole season.
There's a lot there.
We're not gonna do one episode. Like we're doing a one season stand.
One season
we
stand.
did this before with what was the show we did?
Beef. So Beef. We got caught up with Beef. We did the same thing.
Yeah. So and what we're going to do is we're gonna just talk about some of the scenes that we thought were just interesting, like interesting, important, powerful, like all the things. All right, the first thing we want to talk about is really the first scene of the show. I think, where she receives the phone call during a therapy session with her husband.
They're in couples counseling.
That her cancer has come back and she has months to live.
Yeah,
right?
it was a really, really heavy scene. Because what's at play is not only her getting the diagnosis, but like it's perfectly situated in this couples counseling where it is clear that these two are having like major marital problems and their connection is lost in many ways.
Yeah, so Steve, the husband, doesn't come off really great in this series.
Steve is probably pissed about this series.
To the point where Steve needs to write his own screenplay.
He does.
About this experience.
Redeem yourself, Steve.
To redeem yourself, because he comes off bad. But what comes out is Steve, they were already having some sexual disconnection.
From the beginning of their marriage, yeah.
And he became a caretaker. He just lost all sexual
attraction to her. Yes. There's one scene where he tells her, like, when you were bald, this is so terrible, I should not be laughing. When you're bald, he was like, you remind me of my dad. And it was like, what, Steve? He's like, I just couldn't get past it.
Yeah.
And then
then at one point he said, your breast, when I would see your breast, I'm reminded of the cancer and that you're going to die, and that makes me cry.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, my breasts make you think about that. Like, that's
right, great.
Thank you.
We're really, we're going places.
Right. And, so marriage is interesting because, you find someone in your 20s or your 30s, whatever. And the idea is that you're gonna stay with them forever through all of these life situations that you don't know.
They're so unexpected, unplanned, unprepared for. Yeah.
I remember listening to a podcast and this woman said, my husband was terrible when I was grieving my mother. Like her mother was dying. And she said, my husband was terrible. She said, but the thing is, he's good at like 99 other things. So I'm not going to leave him over that when you lose a parent twice in your life.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you're fortunate, right? They outlive you. So she was like, so I got to live with that. But in this show, Steve, obviously, he seems to be a careful caretaker.
Well, careful.
But a little bit overbearing.
Yeah, I was going to say controlling. I wouldn't call it careful.
Controlling,
And I think like at the core of it, sort of what you're talking about in this other person's example, is at the core of Steve's controlling behavior is his desire for her not to die. Like he loves her. He does. And he doesn't want her to die. And so as a result, he hyper manages her care. And there's like a measure of guilt that he puts in with her about like doing everything right in a certain way. He keeps meticulous records. He comes to all of her doctor's appointments. He speaks for her in certain settings and it's bad. Like he doesn't allow her to even advocate for herself.
Well, okay, let's back up. Now see, this is where I think Steve would probably say.
Right. He said, I did it for love. I did it for love.
Let me be the voice of Steve.
Oh, dear.
Because one of the things we get in the show is her inner voice sometimes. Not all throughout the show, but the few times in the episode, we get her inner voice. She often didn't say the things that she needed to say. So Steve was probably playing a role that she needed him to play often.
Well, and that had been a part of their marriage for a long time, I'm sure.
Right. So then she's now saying, like, I don't want this. And then she speaks up for herself, but yet Steve doesn't have the wherewithal to, like, pull himself back.
He can't.
So she leaves Steve. She decides. She makes a statement. I don't want to die with Steve. She goes to her best friend, who does the podcast with her and who's now spearheading the show, and says, I want to die with you. And the story becomes about their friendship
through this journey,
Molly's sex drive, and Molly's cancer, right? Like those are the three
themes.
Pillars of this show. Okay. The next scene, we'll talk about the friend, Nikki. So Molly is the one with cancer. Nikki's the friend. Nikki gets so consumed with helping Molly that she breaks up with her boyfriend, they had a great relationship.
But she basically gives away her whole life. So she didn't just break up with her boyfriend. She lost her job.
Right.
Like she just gave up her life to be there for Molly.
Right. And with a diagnosis of like 5 months, you can kind of understand it.
You can do it.
But she said, like, and this is so interesting, the boyfriend was talking about something, and he's like, hello, you're not listening to me. And she said, you're talking to me about having to spend some extra minutes in traffic going to work. You're complaining about that, and my friend's dying. Yeah. She was like, I don't care about you.
Yeah, I don't care about you. I care about Molly.
Which is like, wow.
It was so devastating to him because he clearly, obviously loved her a lot. And there were times where he tried to assist her in this quest to care for Molly, but it was never enough.
Okay, so I understand how she felt. I don't agree with what she did. Like I just don't. I don't think, because here's the problem. She didn't tell Molly she broke up with her boyfriend.
No.
Because she knew Molly wouldn't want that.
No.
So it's like, here again, you're doing things for her
that she didn't ask.
Doesn't want done.
Well, even the giving away of her life in other ways. Molly was like, there's a point where she says, I didn't ask you to do that. At the same time, like, I think Nikki is, I can forgive her for all of this because she is operating in pure emotion. Like, she is losing the person that is obviously most important to her in the world.
Right.
And it's happening. Right. It's imminent. She knows it. And she is willing to give herself away for that because she's running completely with her heart.
Yeah. I guess I've always felt like I would hate to be in that situation where someone is doing that for me. I'd be like, go live your life, go do things. I don't know, but she kind of put them in a bad spot by saying, I'm going to die with you. Like that kind of.
Right. She's like, well, it kind of obligates me.
Right. Okay. There's a scene where we learn that Molly got breast cancer because her doctor her primary care doctor, or what?
He was her primary care physician. She told him, like, look, I found this lump in my breast. And he's like, you're too young for cancer. Don't worry about it. Live your life. Keep going.
So the friend goes and kind of like yells at him and says, like, I forgive you.
Well, back up. So they have had multiple vigils outside of his apartment. Like, there's one scene where like she and Molly are just sitting there watching him. And there's this juxtaposition of like Molly is sitting there as a dying person as a result of his mismanagement of her medical care. And he is oblivious. Like, he is living life. He's on the phone. He's laughing. He's having a great conversation. So they have spent some time reckoning with this by just like being across from his apartment, looking at him. And so now Nikki goes back and she's yelling at the top of her lungs, I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you. And of course, he has no idea what she's talking about.
Right. So forgiveness is weird for me because, I have made a move away from, Christianity in the last 30 years. 30 years.
Not 30 years.
But one of the things that came up for me a couple years ago was what is the meaning of forgiveness outside of a spiritual context? Like, what does it mean to forgive someone? Because, you always hear like forgiveness is for us, not for them. But like, what does that mean if there's no
right? Well, because in the context of Christianity, like your ability to forgive others frees up God's ability to forgive you, right? So it's like it's also it's not just about you in terms of you feeling better. It's like well, I forgive and thus he forgives. Yeah.
Right. I think what I've come to, whether I call it forgiveness or not, is, and I think this is what Nikki was doing in this episode, I think that forgiveness is accepting someone's humanity. To say, like, you made a mistake, you messed up, even if it was intentional, even if you were intentionally trying to hurt me, that's what humans do. Yeah. And I've got to accept your humanity so that I can move on with my life. And I think what I've learned is that if I can accept someone else's humanity, I can accept my own humanity. You always hear about these people who are, what are they called? Anti-LGBTQ. Like they yell and scream the loudest. And it's always like, something's not right here. Like your inability to accept their humanity is suggesting that you are having some inner problems too. And of course, it always comes out that they're gay. There's something. But this is the sickness when you refuse to accept humanity from other people. Like you are very hard on yourself.
This is true. Well, I'm also just going to tell you, this sounds like a lot like judge not lest you be judged. I mean, it sounds kind of Christian to me.
It all comes back.
It sounds kind of Christian to me.
All right. Did you have any thoughts about the forgiveness?
Yeah, I mean,
are you forgive and forget? Are you forgive but don't forget? Like, where are you on that spectrum?
I am forgive, forget.
Do you hold a grudge?
But
That's the real question. Do you hold a grudge?
No,
Really?
I don't hold a grudge because
Okay.
maybe I'm aligned here. I recognize my own propensity to do things that I need forgiveness for. No, I'm not going to hold a grudge. I do think that there is a measure of forgiving, forgetting, but also protecting oneself. Like, I don't say forget to the point that you expose yourself to undue harm. But beyond that, like, forgive. I can let it go. But I'm also a person who, like, I have a high tolerance for things. So I will put up with a lot before I'm angry enough to even have to forgive you for something.
Okay.
So I can let a lot of things go.
Is it in a good way, or are you saying like, I need to be cutting people off soon?
No. I'm saying in a good way. I can say, like, you know what, whatever.
Right.
It's fine. I'm not truly harmed.
I'm not. I have very thick skin. I grew up with some very cruel cousins. They called me
all kind of names.
Called me every name. Who mistreated me. Like, I really should be in therapy for the way that my cousins treated me in my life.
Well, and I will tell you, like, I was a super sensitive kid. I was very sensitive.
Really?
Very sensitive. Like, it was very easy to hurt my feelings. And then I feel like with growth and maturity, I kind of got over some of those things. I think it follows with like your own confidence in yourself. But I will tell you, I had this thought about the scene that maybe no one will agree with me. She's yelling at this random man who has no context for why she's yelling. She's saying, I forgive you. And on the one hand, you could surmise that, like, what she's trying to do is truly forgive, let it go. I feel like in some way that scene, because if you're trying to let it go, there's no purpose of yelling it in front of the person's house, like such that it registers with them. Like, I feel like on some level, she was also looking for it in the most impossible way, because obviously it couldn't happen, for it to be acknowledged. Like, I'm letting it go, but, like, you got to know that there's something you are to be forgiven for. And, like, I think about him walking away from that being like, what are you talking about? And if he is a decent person, like, maybe he's trying to think back, like, through his actions and saying, what do I need to be forget? He's not. He's because he was like, whatever, whatever, lady. I don't know, but I feel like she, on some level, was also trying to wanting some acknowledgement.
But Nikki was full speed ahead with the feelings. Like, she was.
She was a feelings forward type of person.
Feelings forward person.
Yes.
Yeah. So she was just going on feels. Like, I'm not sure she had a plan.
Oh, probably not.
I'm not sure she had an intention. She's like just feelings forward. Okay, so when Molly starts dating, there is a scene, and this scene was in a preview also, about her and the guy she was dating, like, discussing what they like, what their limits are, because there was a little bit of BDSM involved.
Yeah, and it's like, well, here's what I can handle, here's what I can't. But to me, what stood out in that scene is like, gosh, if people were just more upfront. I mean, if the two of them are negotiating a non-relationship sexual encounter, and like, they were just being super upfront and clear. And I am not dating, but I'm guessing people who are would appreciate some more, like, directness and clarity. What do you like? What don't you like? What can you put up with? What can't you put up with? What are your deal breakers? And then, like, let's decide if we're a match.
So I remember when I was single, and the guys would talk and the girls would talk, and the girls would be like, if you just want sex, just say it. Like, you don't have to lead on, just say it. And then all the guys would be like, but if we said it, we would leave.
I'm not gonna get any.
So I think people are pretending so that the other person is like, oh, you're a weirdo. Like, let me ease my weirdness into this relationship rather than putting that on the table. But there is some truth to that about, like, and I think the gay community has this thing where there's like, where they would say, like, what are you into, right? And that has now, like, spread into heterosexual relationships of, like, what are you into, like, what are you looking for, right? Like what type of relationship are you looking for? But at the same time, you can't put all your cards on the table on the day one, right?
Okay.
Like, don't you have to?
Let me tell you. So this is a complete tangent. I am watching this show that is in its third season. I feel like everybody is watching it. Love on the Spectrum. And this follows people with a diagnosis of autism. They are somewhere on the spectrum in pursuing love relationships. And there's a lot of chatter right now about how direct these people are as well. Like, they're very clear. They go into a date. What do you like? What do I like? Like, what are you into? What am I into? What are your interests? And then literally at the end of the date, like, folks are saying, like, this has been nice, but I don't think we're a match. Like, they are so direct. They're just like,
direct.
this, I don't think we're a match. And then, like, the other person is like, thank you so much for telling me goodbye. Like, there is just something around this directness that gives them clarity. And I think people are really in search of clarity.
And other people are like, well, okay, I'll call you tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, right. And then ghosting them.
Yeah.
Or leading them on until they get what they want. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So as a part of this BDSM world, a couple things happen. One is she meets this guy who ultimately comes to the hospital dressed in a dog costume and pretends to be a dog.
A dog.
He
like,
only
he's
barks,
fully,
and he cuddles and sits in her lap.
He's wearing a costume,
and her
a
whole
collar.
her family's here.
Yeah, everybody.
The doctor's there. And he is like, yes, I am a dog.
Well, here's the thing. He messages her and she's like, yeah, come on. Like, come on. I'm in the hospital. Come. And so he comes and she's like, come here, boy. And like, up on the bed he goes in front of her whole crew. And she just completely respects him, honors him, and treats him the way he wants to be treated. And I think like this is clearly a major theme of the show. Like, I think that the writers of this show, based on Nikki and Molly's real life experiences, were trying to communicate that, like, look, everybody is into something different. And if what you're into is not harming anyone, it's okay. It's okay. You want to dress up like a dog, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of fine.
I mean, it's fine for you if you're into that. You're ridiculous. And if you want to just invite your whole family to watch this exchange, like, go for it.
Like, I'm imagining him, right? Oh, like, I guess in New York, they're just like, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, okay. This is truly a tangent. So one of my first few trips to New York as an adult, I'm getting ready to go to this nice dinner. We're standing at the corner, getting ready to cross the street. And up to the stoplight comes this minivan with this man dressed head to toe in latex, like some kind of whip coming out of the top of his head.
Wow.
And I was like, I guess this is New York. Like, this is someone's dad. Like, there are car seats in the back. And this man is just at the stoplight, like, what? I absolutely, one of my favorite moments ever in New York.
Well, I have this issue when I'm going to Halloween parties, and I'm like, do I put my Halloween costume on
before, right?
When it's too early? Because if I gotta make a run to Kroger, okay, now I'm dressed like a baseball player walking through Kroger. You know, like when is it too early? If I get pulled over, if I get arrested, and I'm looking like a pirate in the car, it's like.
Yeah, this guy was like, I got to get to the party somehow. So it's the minivan and the latex.
Right. The other interesting BDSM thing is that she sort of recognizes that she wants to be a Dom. And she sees a Dom scene play out in a sex party or play party. And then she approaches, I think she knows the person. She approaches them and says, like, hey, like, I want to be a Dom. Teach me.
Yeah.
And the woman says, you need to be a sub first. Like,
that's right.
Like, let me be a sub for me. And then Molly was like, that's not my speed. And she said, well, come back when it is. Like, I'm
telling you, this is the way to do it. Yeah. And
I'm unwilling to like teach you to be a Dom until you've been a sub.
Yeah, well, and here's one of the things that we're missing in terms of context. Like, Molly's whole quest, like her whole sexcapade before she dies, is rooted in the fact that she's never been able to have an orgasm with another person.
Right.
And so I feel like that's also mixed into this whole like Dom versus sub things that she's experiencing. And the woman is telling her, like, you actually are going to have to be able to submit so that you understand the experience of the other person before you can effectively lead in this way. Yeah, and they have an interesting scene in the stockroom of her of her store.
Right. One of the things that was interesting about this show is about 2 episodes in, I was like, oh, this is a show for women, by women, to women. I very much felt like this show, it wasn't for me.
For you, okay.
It wasn't to me. I still wanted to watch it because women were speaking. Like, I felt like this is a show where women are speaking, and I want to hear women.
Yeah.
But it very much felt like a conversation that Molly and her friend Nikki were having with women about sex, about doctors and power, about dying. Did you get the
about
sense
relationships? Yeah, I mean, even when we decided on this, like, you were like, Jobina, this is about empowered women. Like, this is about women's empowerment in so many spheres of their life. Yeah, I got the exact same thing. I mean, of course it drew me in because it was for me. But I just saw this woman who was going through this self-actualizing process in many phases of her life. Like, I love not only what she did in terms of her pursuit of connection, but like when she tells her doctor, like, look, dude, if I'm dying and you're going to be on this journey with me, like, sit down next to me on this bed. What is your first name?
Right.
Like, we're going to get to know each other because you are a guide to me on this process of dying. And like, you're going to know me and know who I am. You're going to take time. And I appreciated that.
He was trying to give them golf analogies, and they were
like, no, Jerry.
No, we don't play golf.
No,
find another way.
And he
was
did,
like, oh,
though.
no.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He eventually
came around.
Yeah, he came around.
Right. Yeah. Okay, the other thing was she did fall in love with someone.
Yes.
Kind of unexpectedly.
Very unexpectedly.
Her neighbor, they had some interaction. She kicked him in the dick. She broke her hip. Like, a lot of things happened.
He was horrified. He was like, wait a minute. You are now writhing in pain on the floor, because he didn't know she had cancer at that point.
Right.
But like, what's growing between the two of them is more than like a stop on her sexual adventures. Like,
so this is actually a moment. Sorry to cut you
yeah,
off.
it's fine.
There's a moment here. This is where I was actually angry at the show.
Oh no!
Because as many places I have lived, the idea of having a neighbor that you fall in love with, it's like, it's impossible.
It's never going to happen.
I know people. The last place that me and my wife lived, there were 2 people that would come to the pool. I would take my girls to the pool all the time. There were 2 people that came to the pool, and I said, oh, like, you guys are dating? They're like, yeah, we're dating, but we're also neighbors. They were condo neighbors and started
and
dating.
Then what if you break
and
up?
Fell in love. Oh, well, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, nobody wants. I'm like, they're gonna break up, and then you're stuck living next to this person. I think it's a horrible idea. It's horrible.
So I've known them now 4 years because they go to my gym. So I've since moved, but I see them at the gym all the time. They're still together 4 years later, and they're like a good couple. They're well matched. I do see what you're saying. If it doesn't work out,
you have to look at that person. Exactly. You get to see all that, especially condo neighbors. Come on, no.
I'll take the risk, Jobina. I'll take the risk. Like, imagine living next to someone that you're dating. Like, imagine how convenient that is.
Yeah, but also think about sometimes the distance that you need to create between someone you are newly dating. Like, they know when you're home.
I'm going home.
Yeah, but they know when you're home. They know when you're not.
Like, what are you doing? Like, what? Why are you?
I mean,
sneaking
just
around
pursuing my own business and my own life. I'm sorry, I'm not into it.
No. If I see love potential, not just some fling.
Right. But you see love potential.
One episode stand, one night stand person. If I see long-term potential, I'm in. Like, because it's just so convenient.
I suppose.
And you know how you've heard of those relationships that the people say we live separate? They say, I got a house across town.
Yeah.
So like when we need space, I go to my house, she goes to her house, and that house is next door.
And you just walk across the grass.
Right. So she falls in love with her next door neighbor, and then he actually is invited by her into the hospital on her last leg.
I mean, she is truly... She's going down at this point.
They're like, let's get it in.
Let's get it in while we're in there. Like, just pull that curtain down back and let's go for it. Right. But here's the thing. So, of course, you know, when I rabbit hole. So I was not only watching the full series, I was also listening to the podcast on Wondery. So this...
Did you just plug Wondery?
I did. Wondery, if you want to... You want to sponsor us? I watched the podcast on Wondering. So this scene, whereas in the show, it's about her neighbor and their eventual like connection beyond the sex, and they fall in love. Like this is actually about a real life person who comes on and is interviewed. Like Molly has passed. Nikki brings him on because Nikki says to him, I don't judge, but I want you to know I've been judging you this whole time because in my mind, who comes up to a hospital to like have an encounter with someone who you know is dying of cancer? And this man, like the way that he describes how he felt about Molly, even though they were not in love, and he says like, I was not in love with her. This was only his second time seeing her. They had been on one date before, and he was like, I was so captivated.
So the real guy did come to the hospital.
Oh yeah.
But he didn't, they weren't in love.
They were not in love. This was their second time being with each other. And he says that the first time he was with her, he was so captured by like how magnanimous a person she was. He's like, she never looked like she was sick to me. She was so full of life. She was so vibrant. He even said, like, for the most part, I fall in love with people who are not good for me, which is why I didn't fall in love with Molly, because I felt she was too good for me. Like, she was too good for the world in some ways. And he's like,
he has his own set of issues.
So yeah, he definitely did. But he was so enamored with her that he was like, I just felt like if she were leaving this world, I had to be in her presence one more time.
Well, it didn't hurt that she wasn't ugly.
No, she's quite beautiful.
She is beautiful.
He even talks about her mouth and like how her mouth was so pretty. Like he was obsessed with her. He was like, she had an amazing body, amazing personality. Like she just was an amazing person.
Right. Yeah. So like I said, there's an Instagram page. Her friend are not ugly. And neither are the actresses that played them on the show.
Right. And well cast. Like I feel like Michelle Williams, oh my gosh, so well cast.
Speaking of the cast, Jobina, we have to talk about the hospice nurse.
Oh my gosh. This was, now we said many things about the scenes. This to me was the most powerful scene in the whole show.
This was amazing.
It was incredible.
I sent this to my family, like on WhatsApp.
Oh, wow.
I literally recorded the scene and sent it to my family.
And sent it.
Everyone watched the scene. And what the scene is, so Molly finally goes into hospice, and which means the end is near.
Yes.
And this nurse describes for them the process of dying.
Yes, beautifully.
And it's amazing. It's stuff I've never heard before. I actually sent it to my family and said, like, because we've had multiple experiences with hospice and people dying in hospice. We love hospice. Like, we love hospice. And I said, did you all ever get a conversation like this? And because the conversation was like, 1 month before you die, you're going to need help with all your daily activities.
Every daily activity.
And then 2 weeks before you die, you're going to stop eating. And she was making the point that your body knows how to die.
You don't have to be afraid.
Process. It's not a catastrophe. It's not like your body knows to shut down. Even when she said your breathing will slow, and then one time you'll breathe out, and it will not be followed by a breath in. It was so, and she did it with such love.
Right. Care and almost
appreciation for humanity.
Yes. Like this beautiful reverence for the process. Like she was so phenomenal in the way she communicated it. And having had a parent who passed, who was in hospice at home, like, I mean, we talked to our hospice nurse, but I'm telling you, this needs to be like in all the training videos. It was so powerfully done. And she talks about the rally and how you're going to feel during that time, and like how to take advantage of this last sort of moment where you can do a lot and it's going to appear to be a rebound. But it was just so well done.
Yeah. So the rally, she said, I think is a week before you die.
Yeah.
She said a week before you die. This thing, they call it the rally. I looked it up. It's called terminal lucidity, where and she said it can be bad because it makes families feel like
you're turning the corner.
Yeah.
But you're not.
Yeah. So this is the conversation that people need to have. So the woman who played this part, I fell in love with because her energy was so good. Like as a hospice nurse, her name is Paula Pell. I looked her up. Okay. She's one of these actresses that's been on 100 different shows for like 1 or 2 episodes. So she's never really stuck on anything. She was actually a Saturday Night Live writer for a long time. Oh, wow. So she has comedy chops, but she's never really stuck with anything. And I'm just like, why?
Nailed this.
She was amazing.
She nailed it.
In this scene. Yeah. That's all the scenes, Jobina. Do we have anything? Do we want to go straight to what, like more or less? Was there anything more or less you wanted to see from this show?
No, I feel like this was so beautifully done that I left feeling so like enriched by the experience of going on this journey with Molly, and like a sense of completion. Like I feel like they did it beautifully. They did it well. They did justice to her story, which of course, I was looking every place for all the other details. I think they did a beautiful job with her story in a respectful way, and they hit home their points as a show. I loved it.
So this is going to sound very strange.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Because
oh dear.
It's a show about sex, and they didn't show much sex.
No.
Which I understand. They were. I guess the show technically wasn't about sex. The show was about dying.
It's about dying. And sex was this vehicle for her about like feeling life, living life, being connected in her final months.
Yeah. Okay. Marry, kill, one night stand. I'm going to give you
the neighbor I'd marry.
Really?
Yeah. I thought he, like for someone to be able to go through this arc with someone where you are attracted to them, it's all about your fetishes and kinks. You find out they're having cancer and you allow yourself to fall in love with them. Like they fell in love. And I was like, this guy, he's a good guy. Like he went through times where like she wouldn't talk to him. He didn't know what was happening, but she was of value to him in a way that I was like, yeah, this guy's a good guy. I mean, he was messy. His house was messy.
He was messy.
He was messy. But other than that, we're going to the chapel.
Much of a backbone, Jobina. Like that's if I had to critique him on something, I'm not sure he had much of a backbone.
But don't you think we've talked about this before, versions of yourself. You were looking at a version of himself, of him that was, obviously, I think he's multifaceted. I think that was one part of his personality. You've never pushed back on any of my decisions. We're getting married, and that's it. Like you can't talk me out of it.
Okay. You want to marry him?
Oh, who has ever convinced anybody not to marry someone? This guy.
I tried to tell you.
Oh gosh. Okay. So my marry, kill, or one night stand for you is Nikki.
Ooh. So Nikki was a mess. She was all over the way. Place.
Yeah.
But Nikki, as was told to us, was very sexual. And like, whereas Molly had never had an orgasm with anyone, like Nikki was having them.
She was going to town
all the time and could easily have them. Since we broke format for the show, I'm going to break format with one night stand. I'm going to say I'm going to have a 1 week stand. Because I like her. Like I don't just see her as a sexual object. Like
you're like long term, it's not going to work.
I like these feelings for people. Like I do not operate like that in the least.
I was like, do you want somebody who feels that big? Now I'm going to push back on you.
Yes.
Like like, is that what you want to do?
For 1 week, yes.
For what?
Feel all the feelings.
No,
I'm with
you're
you.
going big for a week.
Yell at the doctors who don't know who we are. Let's do all the things for 1 week. After that, I cannot marry a person like that.
You can't sustain it. Yeah.
I absolutely cannot marry a person like that. So, okay. Well, I mean, we can't ask.
No, because we clearly have watched the whole thing.
Wait. We have to do one more thing. What do you think Molly and Nikki were trying to say? Like, what was this show trying to say to women, to people, to sick people? Like, what was it trying to say?
Okay. I think there were several core messages of this show. One of them, and I feel like we've explored these, but like one of them is that if we would accept as human beings that we will expire and not try to sort of live our lives in pretense that it's not going to happen to us, that we're going to live forever, not approach it with a sense of fear, understanding that our bodies know what to do, that we could better accept when it comes and navigate it with maybe greater grace, greater intention, and just still allowing joy in our lives. So I feel like that was one of the core themes of the show.
So Molly died. I'm actually reminded now, as you were talking, I'm reminded of my grandmother, because my grandmother went to hospice as well. My grandmother refused to do chemo when she got cancer. And she said, I'm ready to die. And she died with such a grace and dignity that that was just 20 plus years ago, 30 years ago. We all remember the way she died and hope to go out the same way she did. Yeah. Like very accepting. Like this is my path. This is my journey. And I'm at peace, which was interesting.
My dad was that way. He was ready to go. He felt like he had outlived his utility. He felt like completely confident in his, eternal destiny, and he was ready to go. Speaking of the rally, this is again, like now we're going back into the show, but my dad had a rally. And there was a moment, my dad had a very, very good sort of almost darkish sense of humor. And so there was a moment where he's laying in his bed and my mom felt like his breathing was shallow. So she put her face up to his face to ensure that he was still breathing. And he goes, "Boo, I'm not dead yet." I'm like, no, Daddy,
get out of here.
So the way that he accepted and was very much desirous of going on and being done with this life. And
you talked about people like putting their head in the sand and acting like it's not going to happen. I think a lot of people are so afraid of death that they don't want to think about it. They don't want to talk about it. My father's 81. He is, what do they call it? Sundown. Like he's sundowning. That's the right term?
I don't know.
Like we can see, we don't know if it's going to be 6 weeks, 6 years, but like we can see this trajectory, right? And it just took him a long time to start talking about it, and it was just kind of like, Dad, like, let's talk about it.
But don't you think there's always like one more thing you want to experience? Because like my mom is 86, and like I think you start when you get older, you're thinking, gosh, I just love to see my kids grow up and be happy. But then they have kids, and you think, well, I would really love to see like I think there's always one more thing you want to experience, and that probably is part of our fear around it. But then also, like, not everybody goes out peacefully, and I think people fear pain. They're afraid of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was one of the themes. Yeah. I mean, I also feel like the show was trying to say, and we sort of touched on this as well, like Molly decided to pursue connection and meaning in her life at the end through sex. And I think they were trying to communicate that the way you show up is very personal, and that it's okay to be you. It's okay to be interested in what you're interested in. And again, obviously with a caveat of like, you're not harming anyone, like go be yourself and enjoy yourself.
Yeah. There was a certain sense of open the box, like leave the cave, explore. And it took her getting this diagnosis
for her to do that,
to say, I'm going to do some things that are non-traditional, including leaving my husband.
Yeah, she sure did.
Including being a dom, like I said, kicking someone in the dick, right? like who liked it, like a person who was thankful.
He asked for that. Yes,
she did not assault anyone. He wanted that specific act. And I think there was a little bit of thread of, why didn't I do this earlier? Right? Like, why did it take? I don't know that she ever had overtly made that comment to anyone. But like, I'm now taking ownership in a way that I should have done years ago.
Because she was in a relationship with a husband that she, like, there was no fire. Nothing was there for a long time.
Right.
And she wanted, which there was a line, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of this quote. She said, I want to be touched by someone who wants to touch me. Like she wanted to come alive in a way that to your point, she didn't pursue until the end, and she likely felt like she missed out on a lot.
It's so difficult though, because I mean, if you know you have 5 months to live, yeah, you're gonna throw caution to the wind, right? Like, because any mistake you make, well, you only have to live with it for 5 more months,
right?
But like, if you're looking at 40 more years, it's a little bit harder to throw caution to the wind, right?
Exactly.
It's just a little more difficult. It's more difficult to get rid of Steve when you have 40 more years.
Yes.
Because Steve is stable. Steve
and it's not that he didn't love her; he loved her. But yeah,
Steve was a nice guy.
He was a nice guy.
So it's a little harder to do that. So it's like there's a balance between I got to live my life for today and I got to live my life for tomorrow.
and many, many more tomorrows. But here's the thing, though. Like, if you look at the juxtaposition of these two friends, Nikki had the rest of her life, which appears to be a long one. Molly had the rest of her life, which appears to be a short one. And they both lived with a level of reckless abandon that I would not say is equivalent, but they were close. Like, Nikki still did the things that she wanted to do. Like, I think you had...
but Nikki's life was a mess.
Yeah, but she didn't care. She's just like, you know what? I want to act in this random play where I'm wearing like leaves on my face. I mean, that thing was ridiculous. And like
but she didn't have a place to live. Like,
yeah, but she didn't care. Like, she was living her life the way she wanted to live it, is my point.
Yeah. I mean, I have like a little bit of that in me. Like, I do. Like, I'm not trying to sit here and criticize like she's crazy. And I clearly I'm doing the 1 week stand with Nikki, so I'm not.
You're like, I'm on this ride with her for at least a week.
Right. Okay, now are we done? Like, do we get it?
I think we have. I think we have discussed all the major themes.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to One Episode Stand. If you enjoyed this episode, you can subscribe to the podcast to be alerted when new episodes drop. If you are listening on iTunes, please give us a rating. The theme music is Freedom by Paradox Hip Hop, and we'll be back next time with another series premiere. Jobina, let's end on this. Every story has a moral. What was the moral of this episode?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just gave it. And it is that if you have big feelings, your relationship with Luther is going to last a week.
All right, everyone.
Bye, everybody.